Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And today my guest is Edward Sullivan from Pennsylvania in the United States, and his business is called Trust Exchange, and his topic today is Start Something. And Edward is a successful software entrepreneur who has innovated several key technologies on the internet, e-commerce, crowdsourcing, and cloud computing. He has built several companies from the ground up, designed products, created categories, and created over $1 billion in value for his investors and employees. His most recent company is Trust Exchange, a crowd-powered business platform where businesses can create their own custom social networks to solve complex information problems. Edward is also passionate about helping others start something and become entrepreneurs, which is really a great thing at this time. He has started a newsletter. It's edsale.substack.com, where he discusses his journey building Trust Exchange that is growing into a community of entrepreneurs. Welcome, Edward, and tell us a little bit more about the Trust Exchange.
First of all, Rose, thank you very much for having me this evening, this morning, this afternoon. I really appreciate it. So correct my background of multiple companies, and my most recent company is called Trust Exchange. And I came up with the idea of Trust Exchange while at my last company called ARIA Systems. I think we actually have some customers in Australia. And what I realized was as the number of companies was growing that depended on other companies on the internet, especially in regulated industries, right? So where you're handling money or touching cash or transferring cash or electronic payments, that there was a lot of checking up on each other that you had to do. And that process was, and still is, very cumbersome. And if I'm your customer and you're my vendor or you're my partner, you're going to call me and nag me. I need this audit and that audit and proof that you're insured and background checks and so on and so forth. And everybody solves the problem like that, directly talking to each other. So it occurred to me that that is the equivalent of using Facebook the wrong way. Imagine if we all had to go buy our own copy of Facebook and install it on our own computers. And I would call you and say, hey, Rose, send me the pictures of your vacation. And you would send them to me via mail. And I would scan them in and put them on my profile of you. And then all of your friends, you're sending them different pictures of different things. Oh, here's some food from the restaurant. No one would have the uniform profile of you, and it would be a mess. I would have, my kids' pictures maybe on your profile. It was like, did this come from you? That came in the mail and I put it in a pile. Is this your picture or someone else's picture? Which, in fact, is, if you think about business software, it's exactly what happens today. Credit reports, financial statements, they're all done effectively manually with people in spreadsheets. So my idea was, why not create a social network? Or better yet, why not create a platform to allow companies to create their own social networks to solve these types of exchanging information problems? And that's what Trust Exchange is, a way for companies to create these social networks, connect their network, collaborate on things, documents, regulations. We're doing things in the United States where we're tracking disease outbreaks on farms. It's being used in pharma to track drug distribution. So it turns out the original idea I had, there's a whole bunch of adjacent problems that it solves as well.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, so I guess it's does it take away from, platforms like Asana or, those types of software platforms, or is it different?
I think it's different. I think that the difference is that I'm not 100% familiar with Asana. However, companies that are in this space tend to solve the problem. They look at it as if it's a pipeline. Like a lot of people are taught to think about a supply of something, including information, as a chain or as a pipeline. Here's my pipeline of information. Here's my chain of information. And they solve it with people and spreadsheets and linearly. Exchanging information in a one-to-many or many-to-many multiple layer problem is exponential. And it's hard to solve with people and spreadsheets, especially at large scale. And it's also hard to solve it in unique ways where the data is secure. How do you keep the data secure? How do you control that information? So we're a kind of souped up, secure, specialized platform that creates social networks to exchange information, monitor information, set rules. I can go in as the administrator of my network and set rules. I want to see proof of this every week, this every month. We could do things hourly. In the United States with the drug distribution, we have to check on things multiple times a day.
Mm. Yeah, so it sounds like so helpful for other business owners. So tell me why you want other entrepreneurs to just start something. What's the idea behind that?
So my background is engineering, and I started out as an engineer working in a power plant. Always kind of wondered if I could, have a better life by doing my own thing. And it occurred to me that I was watching, the people that were 5 years older than me, 10 years older than me, 20, 30 years older than me. This is when I first graduated from school. They didn't seem very happy. And I had just had a child at the time. So it occurred to me that no matter how smart my kid is, I couldn't go to my employer when I retired and said, hey, my son's a really good engineer or my daughter's a really good engineer. Give them my job. Let them have my job, right? You can't pass your job along. However, if I had a little business, maybe I sold ice cream on the corner or something, at least, even if it did $20,000 a year in business, I could give it to my children. I could pass it along. That is important to me. So that was what gave me the bug to start my own company.
Okay. And that's a great idea.
Yeah. And it did. It's not easy. But I do think there's a lot of things that people can do that are kind of side hustles that can make their life better, maybe grow into a real business that can change your perspective on things, widen your network, talking to different people. And with the internet now, I think with the global response to the pandemic, I think there may be, when you look at the companies that are really big now, they were started kind of at a reset. Something was reset, right? In 2000, the internet was reset, and the companies that came out of that. 2008, 2009, the banking system and the real estate market globally was reset, and a lot of really good companies came out of that. So I think now, if it's an idea to do it, why not try? Just give it a shot. And what we talk about is what do you need to do? Well, the first step is the hardest. Second step might be 50% easier than the first step. But taking that first step and, okay, I'm going to go do this. Now I'm going to go get a customer. Now I'm going to go get 2 customers, 5 customers. And there's kind of a methodology behind it that I learned the hard way. And I think, how do you, I have 10 ideas. What do I do? How do I inventory those ideas? How do I rank those ideas? How do I decide, do I want to be a billionaire? Do I want, like the ice cream stand story, you're not going to be a billionaire with an ice cream store. Maybe with a brand, a Ben & Jerry's brand, you might be able to be a billionaire. So being able to think through your ideas, if you have one, if you have none, how do you generate ideas? How do you look for things? So that's kind of some of the things that we talk about.
Perfect. It's So do you sort of just say, keep your day job and find a side hustle and progressively move into that?
Well, I think it depends. I think if you're nervous, if you have a full-time position and you're nervous about doing it, certainly do something on the side, or at least take one action. Like, take one step. There's some really inspiring stories out there. Like, I guess I don't know if they have Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was in his 60s when he started, right?
Yeah.
And became a global brand. And would drive around with the chicken in his car and cook the chicken for people and convince them to buy his recipe.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that now might be a really good time. I think there's a couple things that are positive lessons of coming out of the pandemic and the shutdown, is that maybe you don't need an office. Maybe you can be remote. Maybe you can be remote and be at home with your kids and be on that Zoom call. Be on the Zoom call and help your children with something they're stuck on in a lesson real time while they're having that lesson, and not impact your work. And in fact, maybe be more productive. One of the things we found at my other company, when this was all hitting, we put in our budget that we were going to be like 30%. We're worried about productivity going down 30%. It went up. It went up 20% and maybe more. And some of it was, our people happier at home than in the office, happier at home than having commutes. And some of it was that, our customers were sitting at their desk also. They weren't going out to lunch. They weren't having meetings. Everybody was focused on the problem at hand. But I think we definitely learned that things can be done remotely.
Yeah, I think one of the positives out of the pandemic is that people have become more connected, even though they can't actually, touch or feel but they become more connected in the fact that they have to Zoom. If you want to have a meeting with somebody, you don't have to travel, you don't have to fly. You just get on a Skype call or a Zoom call or a FaceTime or whatever, and, you can meet, and it's quite cost effective. And I think a lot of new businesses have been born, as you said, out of the issues, because people have been at home and they're bored and they need to find something to do.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of advantages to having a business. Income, building wealth. So another important lesson I learned is the difference between building income and building wealth, and the difference, right? So with a job, you build income. With a business, you build wealth. Even if it's incremental and small, it's still wealth. And the ability to transfer that wealth. You can't transfer your job. You can transfer your wealth, and you can transfer your ownership in your company. And I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I met somebody that does coaching, is an English teacher, was kind of laid off, and she teaches foreigners that want to come to the United States or that work with U.S. companies on how to speak English. And she does it, she gets up at 2:00 in the morning, does it through the night, goes to sleep, gets up, exercises, does the stuff that she likes to do, and created a nice little living for herself.
Yeah.
After losing her job.
Yeah, there are always opportunities, I think, if you go and look for them. I mean, this podcast was born because of the pandemic. I have another job where I help speakers transition from offline to online, because a lot of people aren't tech savvy, or they're a bit shy to stand in front of a camera because that's all they see is a camera and they don't see people. But the podcast was born out of this situation, because I thought, well, business owners are really challenged with, finding ways to turn their businesses around. And I thought, well, why not do a podcast where they can connect with or listen to other business owners, whether they be startups or, executives like yourself, and get great information and, help them on their little journey and things that they don't know about. And I think,
Yeah.
the podcast isn't overly, it's building its audience slowly, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And, because people want to learn. And I think the pandemic really has had some positives.
Yeah. And, so I don't know if you remember when Amazon first came out, and there was a lot of talk about the long tail and how Amazon, when this was in the late 90s, right? With the long tail, and that bookstores couldn't afford to have every title on the shelves. So they just picked the top 100 books and then maybe the next level of books as well. But Amazon, because of their business model, could have the 20,000th most popular book in the world. They could have books built around the, some obscure, Tasmanian goldfish or something, right? And be able to, I don't know, I'm making stuff up, right? So
yeah, but that's true. Yeah, they have everything.
Yeah, same thing. I think there's about to be an explosion of people-to-people long tail interactions where it's, go start that business, the consulting business, create a product. There was a dad, it was local news here in Philadelphia, where a dad created an app to go see Christmas lights at night for his kids. And he went around, nothing else to do, so we went around and wrote an app on the iPhone to show you where the Christmas lights are. So if you want to take your children out, you get his app and you drive around the neighborhood and see where all the Christmas lights are, the best Christmas lights.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I've got I had a guest on last month, maybe. He lives in the States as well, and he's a lawyer, but he has partnered with one of his friends, and they've created an app where they can share stories, like read stories to their children through this app. And it's absolutely amazing, and he's just getting off the ground, but that's because he's separated from his wife and his child. They don't live together, so and when they live together, he always loved to read to his son. So they've created this app where they can share the same story, or anyone in the family and anyone who's got the app can share that same story with the child, and it's an amazing concept. So it was all born out of the pandemic. It's amazing.
Right. So I used to, before I started my companies, there was a magazine, I can't remember the name of it, but used to have these like case studies about, it was called Entrepreneur Magazine or Success Magazine. I think it was one of those two. And they would have case studies of people that started businesses and the success stories behind them. And it was a similar story that goes to show, start it, just go do it. So this gentleman had young boys. He had lost his job and his wife was working. So he was Mr. Mom. And he would make them their breakfast, get them ready for school. And this one day they were watching a video on television and he couldn't get their attention. And it was a video, just two young boys, and it was a video of trucks pushing dirt, construction trucks pushing dirt. And it was like a quick snippet on Sesame Street or something. So that was the idea for him to go. He would drop his kids off at school, take his big old video camera, find construction sites, and videotape trucks pushing dirt, pulling things down, doing different things, and made a VHS with it and sold a whole lot of them. I don't remember what the number was, but sold a whole lot of them, became a very successful had a very successful company around that. And then I think he started doing fire engines and, but just what do you do when you have to do it? What would you do when you have to do it? Why not start it now?
Yeah.
Why not, do it on the side?
That's it. There's so much, as we've talked about, there are so many opportunities out there to do something. It doesn't matter. If you've got an idea, just try it. You don't know if you don't know, and you don't know if you don't try. So,
right.
Yep, you got to
try.
It's
always worth taking the shot.
Absolutely.
It's the hockey player, Wayne Gretzky. I think he's credited with saying, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of little quotes like that going around about the same sort of topic. Okay, so tell me about your newsletter. So if they go to edsul.substack.com, is that on a website, or how do people sign up?
Yeah, it's a newsletter platform, and it's basically it's free to subscribe. And then I have like a paid wall where we're creating a community of other entrepreneurs or people that are in the journey. And I kind of have like a couple of groups, like here is somebody that is stuck on, starting something. And there's another group of people that they've gotten like their first 100 customers and they want to kind of, go to the next level. How do they go at the next level? So it's about 100 people total. And it's growing every day, but it's just like, hey, things I observe, here's what's going on. I'll even talk about like, hey, today I'm going like, I'm going to go sledding with my kid, maybe if we get snow tomorrow. But a little bit about life, a little bit about, business, what I'm thinking about, the processes I'm going through, trying to start my company, get customers, get more customers, get partners.
Yep. Okay. So I'll make sure that I put that in the bottom of the video when I post it on YouTube. And where else can they find you? At thetrustexchange.com, and you're on Twitter. Are you on Facebook or LinkedIn?
Yeah, so EDSULL is pretty much my tag on all of those social media sites. I've been on Twitter pretty much from the first day it started. And Facebook, it's Trust Exchange at Facebook. If you search for Trust Exchange, you'll find us there. And our Twitter for Trust Exchange is B2B Trust.
Right.
The letter B, the number 2, the letter B, Trust. B2B Trust. Helping businesses trust each other through creating their own social network.
Okay. And on Facebook, it's the Trust Exchange. I'm just writing
Facebook is Trust Exchange, and then LinkedIn is Trust Exchange also, but my personal stuff is on EdSull, EDSULL.
Right. I will find you and I'll stalk you.
Great.
I was talking to a Facebook expert yesterday and she said, yep, stalk your people. So I'm going to stalk you now.
Find your tribe.
All right. I will. Have you got any other, great hints, tips that you want to share before we finish up today?
Well, the toughest thing for me was I'm an introvert. I'm not shy, but I'm an introvert, meaning like being outgoing and talking to people and doing engagement and stuff is a force for me. I have to, and it makes me tired. I'm also a little anxious about it because it doesn't make me feel great. It makes me feel kind of exhausted. And, doing that approach, making that first step, selling is always hard, like making the cold call. Like you can have the best product in the world, but if you never tell anybody, no one's ever going to find out. So talk to somebody. Even if you don't know what you want to go into business with, find somebody that you really admire and ask them for their top 5 problems in their business. And do that for 5 people. And I almost guarantee you that you'll find a good idea that you can solve, that you know something about, that is a problem for that title or that role or in that business.
Yeah, I'm not, I hate asking for the sale. That is I can't bring myself to cold call anyone. I dislike it immensely. And asking for a sale for me is like, because I don't like to ask for money. I think it's, it just doesn't make me feel comfortable. So I don't know how I'm ever going to be rich, but we'll just see.
Don't ask them for a sale. Ask them for advice.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah,
ask them for advice. Find your target, call them up, and just say, hey, I'm thinking of starting a business, and I'd like to talk to people like you. Would you mind spending 15 minutes and give me a little bit of advice about my idea?
Good good advice. That's a good tip. Thanks, Edward. I might try that.
You don't come off as a cold calling, I'm going to invade your time. Just be polite and ask them for advice.
Okay, I'll try that. All right.
Let me know how it goes.
I will do, yeah, after I've stalked you.
But you have to do, so when you try things, you can't do it once and say, oh, it was a bad result. You have to do a sample. You have to do it 5 times or 10 times.
Of course. Yeah, of course you
10
do.
times.
You have to.
So you're going to call 10 people and ask them for advice that you stalk on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you'll let me know how it goes. How many of those 10 got back to you?
Okay, I will. I promise. Maybe.
Okay. Don't chicken out.
I won't chicken out. All right, Edward, thank you so much for your time today. This has been Edward Sullivan and Rose Davidson on Talking with the Experts, and you can find us on SoundCloud and on YouTube. And thank you again so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.